I'm Rachel, 35, a single mom to my beautiful 8-year-old Lily. Our annual family reunion at my parents' house should have been filled with laughter and memories. Despite my strained relationship with my younger sister Amanda, I always try to keep peace for the family. After arriving, I couldn't find Lily for 30 minutes until I heard crying from the upstairs bathroom. My heart stopped when I discovered my daughter with her head completely shaved, tears streaming down her face. Amanda appeared in the doorway, laughing. "It's just a joke. She wanted a haircut," she said. Something protective and primal rose inside me. Before I continue this story, let me know where you're watching from in the comments below. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe if you want to hear more about navigating complex family relationships and protecting your children. Trust me, what happened next in this situation might help if you're dealing with toxic family members too. My journey as a single mother began 3 years ago when my marriage to David ended. The divorce was amicable enough, but it left me solely responsible for raising Lily while managing a full-time job as a marketing coordinator. Despite the challenges, Lily and I created our own little world of stability and love. Lily's blonde hair had always been her pride and joy. Since she was a toddler, she would refuse haircuts, allowing her locks to grow past her waist. Every morning, we'd have our special ritual where I'd brush and style her hair, sometimes in elaborate braids she'd request after seeing them on YouTube tutorials. Her hair wasn't just hair to her, it was part of her identity, a source of confidence in a world that had already taken her intact family away from her. My relationship with my sister Amanda has always been complicated. For years younger than me, Amanda grew up in what she perceived as my shadow. In high school, while I was focused on academics and extracurriculars, she rebelled. As adults, her jokes at my expense became her trademark, from embarrassing stories she'd share at gatherings to more hurtful pranks. Last Christmas, she had replaced my carefully selected gift to my mother with a cheap alternative, keeping my original gift for herself. When confronted, she laughed it off as just having fun. Our parents' response to these incidents established a pattern early on: "That's just how Amanda is," or "She doesn't mean any harm." Their conflict avoidance created an environment where Amanda's behavior went unchecked, and I was expected to tolerate it for family harmony. After I became a mother, I limited Lily's exposure to Amanda, sensing her jealousy might extend to my daughter. For this year's family reunion, a tradition my parents insisted on maintaining, I had prepared Lily thoroughly. We discussed appropriate behavior, how to politely excuse herself if uncomfortable, and to find me immediately if anything felt wrong. Lily was excited mostly for the attention from her grandparents and to play with her cousins, Amanda's 2 children who were slightly older than her. The morning of the reunion, Lily had selected her outfit with particular care, a blue sundress that matched her eyes, and asked me to style her hair in a special half-up braid that she'd been practicing with me. "Mom, do you think everyone will like my hair?" she'd asked as we drove toward my parents' suburban home, about an hour from our apartment. "They'll love it, sweetheart," I assured her, glancing in the rearview mirror at her beaming face. "You look beautiful." Throughout the drive, Lily chattered excitedly about seeing her cousins and the swimming pool her grandparents had recently installed. I nodded and engaged, while privately rehearsing how I'd interact with Amanda. My strategy was simple: polite but distant, focusing on the children and other family members. When we arrived at my parents' sprawling colonial home, the reunion was already in full swing. My brother Thomas and his wife were setting up lawn games, while various aunts, uncles, and cousins mingled around the barbecue area. My father, still imposing at 65, manned the grill with military precision, a remnant of his army career. My mother fluttered between guest groups, her social energy seemingly limitless. Lily spotted her cousins immediately and, after a quick kiss on my cheek, ran off to join them. I watched her golden hair catch the sunlight as she bounded across the lawn, her laughter carrying back to me. For a moment, everything seemed perfect. "Rachel, you made it," my mother exclaimed, embracing me. "Amanda's been asking when you'd arrive." My stomach tightened slightly. "Where is she?" "Inside, helping with the desserts," Mom replied, already moving on to adjust a crooked table setting. I made my way through the gathering, accepting hugs and answering the usual questions about work and life. Amanda was indeed in the kitchen, arranging cookies on a platter. She glanced up as I entered, a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes spreading across her face. "Well, look who finally showed up," she said, her tone light but with an undercurrent I'd learned to recognize. "Good to see you too, Amanda," I replied neutrally, reaching for a glass of water. The next hour passed in relative peace. I kept an eye on Lily while catching up with relatives. Amanda seemed unusually interested in Lily, complimenting her dress and offering to take her and the other children for ice cream later. I felt a twinge of unease but dismissed it as my own bias. It wasn't until the family photo session ended that I realized I hadn't seen Lily for some time. Checking with my nephews yielded only shrugs. My parents hadn't seen her either. A slight panic began to build as I methodically searched the backyard, the basement play area, and the first-floor rooms. After 20 minutes of increasingly frantic searching, I heard the muffled sound of crying coming from upstairs. Following the sound to the hall bathroom, I called Lily's name, my heart racing when her crying intensified in response. Nothing could have prepared me for what I saw when I pushed open that bathroom door. My beautiful daughter sat on the closed toilet lid, surrounded by piles of blonde hair. Her head, her precious head that just hours before had been adorned with those golden locks she loved, was completely shaved to the skin, uneven in patches where the razor had caught and pulled. Lily's eyes were swollen from crying, her small body shaking with sobs as she clutched strands of her own hair in her fists. For one suspended moment, I couldn't process what I was seeing. My brain refused to connect the dots between my daughter and this traumatized child before me. Then Lily looked up, her face crumpling anew at the shock she saw in my expression. "Mommy," she whimpered, and the sound broke whatever paralysis had gripped me. I rushed to her, kneeling in the hair scattered across the tile floor, pulling her into my arms. "Baby, what happened? Who did this to you?" Lily's words came between hiccuping sobs. Aunt Amanda said, she said it would be pretty. She said, all the cool girls have short hair now. She said, it would be a fun surprise for you. A high-pitched laugh from the doorway sent ice through my veins. Amanda stood there, electric razor still in her hand, her expression caught between amusement and something darker I couldn't name. "It's just a haircut, Rachel. Don't be so dramatic." She waved the razor casually. Lily agreed to it. "Tell her, Lily." My daughter buried her face deeper into my shoulder, her body tensing at Amanda's voice. "Are you out of your mind?" I hissed, trying to keep my voice low enough that Lily wouldn't be further frightened. "She's 8 years old. You had no right." "Oh please," Amanda rolled her eyes. "It's just hair. It'll grow back. You baby her too much." I felt Lily trembling against me and realized my own body was shaking with rage. With deliberate movements, I stood, positioning myself between my daughter and my sister. "Get out," I said, my voice dangerously quiet. "Get out of this bathroom right now." Something in my tone must have registered because Amanda's smirk faltered. Before she could respond, my mother appeared behind her, drawn by the commotion. "What on earth is going?" Her question died as she took in the scene, Lily's shaved head, the hair on the floor, the razor in Amanda's hand. "Oh my goodness." "Mom," I said, fighting to keep my voice steady, "Amanda shaved Lily's head without permission." "Without my permission. She's traumatized." My mother's hand flew to her mouth. "Oh dear. Oh no. Oh dear? That's all you have to say?" I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "Look at your granddaughter." By now, other family members had gathered in the hallway, murmuring in shock as they pieced together what had happened. My father pushed through to the bathroom door, his face darkening as he surveyed the damage. "Amanda," he began, his tone stern but measured. "What were you thinking?" Before Amanda could answer, Lily spoke up, her voice small but clear. "She said Mom would think it was funny. She said I was too vain about my hair." Amanda's face flushed. "I didn't say that. She's making things up." She turned to our parents. It was just supposed to be a trim, but then she moved and, anyway, I don't see what the big deal is. Kids get bad haircuts all the time. This wasn't a haircut, I said through clenched teeth. This was assault. You held down my child and shaved her head against her will. That's a bit dramatic, Rachel, my mother interjected, ever the peacekeeper. I'm sure Amanda didn't mean any real harm. I stared at her in disbelief. Even now, they were defending Amanda. Even with the evidence literally scattered on the floor around us. We're leaving, I announced, turning back to Lily. Sweetie, let's get your things. Don't be hasty, my father said. Let's all calm down and discuss this reasonably. Discuss what? I shot back. How Amanda violated my daughter's bodily autonomy. How she deliberately did something she knew would hurt Lily. Or how you two are still making excuses for her. Amanda's face hardened. You're overreacting, as usual. It's just hair. It'll grow back. God, you always have to make everything about you. About me? I was incredulous. My daughter is sitting here traumatized, and you think this is about me? While this argument escalated, Lily had retreated into herself, wrapping a towel around her head, silent tears continuing to fall. Seeing her withdrawal snapped me back to what mattered. We're done here, I said firmly, helping Lily to her feet. Lily, let's get your backpack and go home. As we moved past the gathered family members, their reactions varied from genuine concern to uncomfortable avoidance. My Aunt Patricia pressed a hand to my arm, murmuring, I'm so sorry, Rachel. This isn't right. My cousin Michael offered to help collect Lily's things. But most just watched in awkward silence, unwilling to take sides in what they saw as yet another conflict between sisters. In Lily's cousin's bedroom, where the kids had left their bags, I helped her put on a lightweight hoodie, which she immediately pulled up to cover her head. As I knelt to zip her backpack, she whispered, Everyone saw me, Mom. Everyone knows I'm ugly now. Her words shattered something in me. Lily, look at me, I said gently, waiting until her tearful eyes met mine. You are not ugly. Not ever. What happened to you was wrong, and I am so sorry I wasn't there to stop it. But your hair doesn't define your beauty. She nodded slightly, but I could see she didn't believe me. How could she? At 8 years old, this kind of betrayal and humiliation felt like the end of the world. As we headed down the stairs, Amanda blocked our path at the bottom, her arms crossed. So that's it? You're just going to leave and ruin the whole reunion because of a little haircut? Real mature, Rachel. I felt Lily shrink behind me and something inside me snapped. Lowering my voice so only Amanda could hear, I said, if you ever touch my daughter again, I will press charges so fast your head will spin. And this little stunt? It's not over. Not by a long shot. For the first time, I saw genuine alarm in Amanda's eyes. Good. She should be afraid. We made it to the car without further confrontation, though I could see my parents watching from the porch, their expressions a mixture of concern and disappointment, directed at me, of course, for causing a scene. As I helped Lily into her booster seat, her small voice broke the tense silence. Why does Aunt Amanda hate me, Mommy? I had no answer that would make sense to an 8-year-old. No explanation for the kind of adult who would hurt a child to get at her mother. So I simply said, this isn't about you, sweetie. Some adults have problems that make them do hurtful things. But I promise you, I won't let her hurt you again. With that promise hanging between us, I closed her door, walked around to the driver's side, and started the engine, leaving behind the family reunion, my enabling parents, and the sister who had finally gone too far. The drive home stretched before us like an endless tunnel. Usually filled with Lily's chatter about cousins and games, the car now echoed with her occasional sniffles from the back seat. I kept glancing in the rearview mirror, my heart breaking as I watched her small fingers repeatedly reach up to touch her bare scalp, each time pulling back as if burned by the contact. The GPS announced our route in an inappropriately cheerful voice while my mind raced through a jumble of emotions, fury at Amanda, disappointment in my parents, and crushing guilt that I hadn't protected my daughter. I should have known better than to let Lily out of my sight. I should have recognized Amanda's unusual interest in her as a warning sign. Mom? Lily's voice was so small I almost missed it. Will people laugh at me at school? My hands tightened on the steering wheel. If anyone laughs, they're being unkind, and we'll talk to your teacher about it. I tried to sound confident. And you know what? We'll find some really cool hats and scarves you can wear until it grows back. How long will that take? The tremor in her voice told me she was fighting tears again. Well, hair grows about half an inch a month, I said, pulling facts from somewhere in my memory. So in a few months, you'll have a cute pixie cut. And in a year, it will be back to your shoulders. A year? The devastation in that single word nearly undid me. But we'll make it an adventure, I added quickly. We can take pictures every month to see how it's growing. Like a science project. She didn't respond, and when I looked back again, she had curled onto her side, facing away from me, the hood pulled tight around her face. By the time we reached our apartment, darkness had fallen, matching my mood. Lily moved mechanically through her evening routine, refusing to look in any mirrors I hadn't already covered with towels. She picked at her dinner, her favorite mac and cheese that I'd hastily prepared, and asked to be excused after just a few bites. While Lily was in the bath, another difficult moment as she'd always loved washing her hair, my phone buzzed repeatedly with messages from family members. From Mom, please call us. We're worried about you and Lily. From Dad, let's not let this situation get blown out of proportion. From my brother Thomas, what Amanda did was messed up. Let me know if you need anything. From Amanda, sorry you can't take a joke. Way to ruin the whole reunion for everyone. I silenced my phone and focused on Lily. After her bath, wrapped in her favorite unicorn towel, she finally looked at herself in the bathroom mirror. Her face crumpled. I look like a boy, she whispered, new tears forming. No, you look like Lily, I said firmly, kneeling beside her. Lily with a different hairstyle. I pulled out my iPad and began searching. Look at these amazing women, I said, showing her photos of celebrities with shaved heads. Emma Watson, Charlize Theron, even Natalie Portman. All of them shaved their heads and they still looked beautiful. She studied the images, unconvinced. They're grown-ups. It's different. What about this? I showed her photos of young girls with cancer who had lost their hair to chemotherapy, smiling bravely. These girls are showing that beauty isn't about hair. It's about who you are inside. Lily touched the screen gently. They're really pretty, she admitted. Then, in a barely audible voice, why does Aunt Amanda hate me? The question caught me off guard, though she'd asked it earlier. This time, I needed to give her a better answer. Sweetheart, I began carefully, Aunt Amanda doesn't hate you. She has problems with me. Adult problems that go back a long time. And sometimes, when adults have problems they can't solve properly, they do hurtful things. Like cutting someone's hair off? Yes. What she did was very wrong. Adults should never use children to hurt other adults. Lily considered this, her brow furrowed. Is she going to get in trouble? A loaded question. I wanted to say yes, that Amanda would face consequences for what she'd done. But I knew my parents well enough to doubt they'd hold her accountable. I'm going to make sure she understands how wrong her actions were, I said instead. And I'm going to make sure she can't hurt you again. This seemed to satisfy her. After reading her favorite story twice, a comfort she hadn't requested in years, Lily finally drifted off to sleep, emotionally exhausted. I sat beside her bed long after, watching her chest rise and fall, noting how vulnerable she looked without the cascade of blonde hair framing her face. Only then, certain she was deeply asleep, did I allow myself to break down. In the kitchen, with the water running to muffle the sound, I sobbed. For Lily's pain, for my failure to protect her, and with a rage toward my sister that frightened me with its intensity. Between tears, I checked my phone again. More messages had arrived, including one from my ex-husband who would be Skyping with Lily tomorrow as per our usual schedule. I would have to explain what had happened, and I dreaded his reaction. As I finally crawled into bed around midnight, emotionally drained, I made two decisions. First, I would take an emergency day off work tomorrow to help Lily process this trauma. And second, this incident would mark a turning point in how I dealt with my sister and parents. No more peacekeeping at Lily's expense. No more excuses for toxic behavior. For too long, I had sacrificed pieces of my dignity on the altar of family harmony. But I would not sacrifice my daughter. Morning arrived with the harsh reality of sunshine that felt inappropriate given the storm still raging inside our home. Lily had slept fitfully, and when I gently woke her for breakfast, her first action was to reach for her hair, the muscle memory of a lifetime routine, only to freeze as her fingers met her scalp. The look of remembrance and renewed grief on her face nearly broke me all over again. "I don't want to go to school," she whispered, pulling her blanket over her head. "You don't have to, sweetheart," I assured her. "I've already called in to take the day off. We're going to have a Lily and Mom day." After a quick email to my understanding boss explaining I had a family emergency, I focused on creating a safe space for Lily to process what had happened. Breakfast was her favorite chocolate chip pancakes, which she picked at half-heartedly. When I suggested we go shopping for some cute hats and scarves, she nodded without enthusiasm. "Do I have to look in the mirrors at the store?" she asked, her voice small. "Not if you don't want to," I promised. "And you can wear your hoodie the whole time." Before leaving, I made another difficult call, to Lily's father. David answered on the second ring, his voice immediately concerned when I asked if we could talk before his scheduled Skype with Lily. "What's wrong? Is Lily okay?" The worry in his voice reminded me that despite our differences, David was a good father who loved his daughter fiercely. "She's physically fine, but something happened yesterday at my parents' house." I explained what Amanda had done, my voice catching despite my efforts to remain calm. David's explosion of anger was exactly what I expected. "She did what?" "That's assault, Rachel. I'm calling my lawyer. I want custody modified. If your family is that toxic." "David, please," I interrupted. "I understand you're upset. I am too. But right now, what Lily needs is stability and support, not her parents fighting over custody." After several minutes of heated discussion, we agreed that David would take a gentle approach during his Skype call with Lily, focusing on her feelings rather than his anger. He also agreed to hold off on legal action, at least until we saw how my family responded to the situation. The shopping trip proved unexpectedly therapeutic. At a boutique specializing in accessories, a saleswoman named Tara noticed Lily's hidden tears as she tried on hats. When I quietly explained the situation, Tara's eyes filled with compassion. "I have a niece who lost her hair during cancer treatment," she confided. "Would it be okay if I showed Lily some styling techniques that helped my niece feel beautiful?" With Lily's hesitant permission, Tara demonstrated how different scarves could be tied, how headbands could be positioned, and how certain hat styles were particularly flattering. By the time we left, Lily had a small collection of accessories and a marginally brighter outlook. Our next stop was even more impactful. Passing a high-end salon, I made an impulsive decision and led Lily inside. The owner, a stylish woman named Justine, listened to our story with growing indignation. "That's absolutely terrible," she said, kneeling to Lily's level. "Would you like me to see if I can make your buzz cut look more intentional? Sometimes when we choose a style, it helps us feel more in control." Lily looked uncertain but nodded. With extraordinary patience, Justine evened out the patchy areas Amanda's hasty job had left, applied a light styling product, and showed Lily how the shortest buzz cut could still be feminine and stylish. "You have the most beautiful face shape," Justine told Lily. "And your eyes are absolutely stunning. Sometimes, less hair actually helps people notice those features more." For the first time since the incident, I saw a flicker of something other than devastation in Lily's eyes, a tiny spark of possibility that perhaps all was not lost. That afternoon, David's Skype call went better than expected. He had indeed controlled his initial rage, greeting Lily with a warm smile that didn't falter when he saw her newly styled buzz cut. "Hey there, beautiful girl," he said, his voice impressively steady. "Mom told me what happened. How are you feeling?" Lily's response was quiet but clear. "Aunt Amanda cut my hair off. She said it was a joke, but it wasn't funny." "No, it wasn't," David agreed. "What she did was wrong. But you know what? You still look like my amazing Lily. And hair grows back." His calm acceptance seemed to reassure her more than all my efforts combined. By the time they ended their call, Lily was actually smiling as she showed off her new hats and scarves. But the respite was temporary. As we prepared for Lily's return to school the next day, her anxiety mounted again. "What if everyone makes fun of me?" she asked repeatedly. "Then they'll have to answer to me," I said, trying to sound light-hearted while meaning every word. I had already emailed her teacher, Ms. Patterson, explaining the situation and requesting her support. That first day back proved as difficult as we'd feared. While Ms. Patterson was wonderfully supportive, gathering the class for a morning discussion about respecting differences and bodily autonomy, children can be cruelly honest. By pickup time, Lily was withdrawn again, and it took gentle questioning to learn that several classmates had asked if she had cancer, while one boy had loudly proclaimed she looked like a weird alien. Over the next week, a pattern emerged. My usually outgoing, confident daughter had become quiet and hesitant. She insisted on wearing hats or hoodies constantly, even at home. She declined playdate invitations and lost interest in her favorite activities. Meanwhile, the family situation escalated. My parents called daily, their messages evolving from "let's all calm down" to increasingly urgent requests that I allow Amanda to apologize so we could move past this unpleasantness. My brother Thomas and several cousins expressed outrage on our behalf, creating divisions within the extended family. Amanda herself oscillated between defensive, "it was just supposed to be a prank," and attacking, "you're turning everyone against me over a haircut." When I didn't respond to her texts, she enlisted mutual friends to reach out, painting herself as the victim of my overreaction. Throughout this chaos, I focused on documenting everything: the initial incident, Lily's emotional response, and the ongoing impact. I researched whether Amanda's actions constituted assault or abuse under the law, consulted with Lily's pediatrician about the psychological effects, and even spoke with a family therapist about establishing healthier boundaries. 2 weeks after the incident, the division in my family had crystallized. One faction, led by my parents, urged forgiveness and reconciliation for the sake of family unity. The other, including Thomas and several aunts and uncles, supported my position that Amanda's action had crossed a line that demanded real accountability. It was my cousin Elaine, a social worker, who finally provided the perspective I needed. Over coffee in my kitchen while Lily was at school, she listened to the whole story and then said simply, "Rachel, what would you tell Lily if, as an adult, someone violated her boundaries this way? Would you tell her to forgive and forget for the sake of peace? Or would you tell her she has every right to demand respect and change before allowing that person back into her life?" The answer was obvious, and with it came the clarity I needed for the next difficult step. After 3 weeks of limited contact with my parents and none with Amanda, I finally agreed to a meeting. The location, my parents' home, was a concession I made reluctantly, but I insisted that Lily would not attend. My friend Jessica had happily volunteered to have Lily over for a Saturday playdate with her daughter, relieved to see Lily slowly beginning to socialize again. I arrived at my parents' house with a tote bag containing what might have seemed like excessive documentation to some, but I was done with being gaslit about Amanda's behavior. I had Lily's written account of what happened, photos of her immediately after the incident, notes from her pediatrician about the emotional impact, and even printed screenshots of research about bodily autonomy and children's rights. My father opened the door, his face a mask of carefully cultivated neutrality. "Rachel," he said with a nod. "Thank you for coming." The formal greeting from my own father spoke volumes about how this family dealt with conflict, with stiff politeness rather than honest emotion. I followed him into the living room where my mother and Amanda already waited. Mom immediately stood to hug me, which I accepted stiffly. Amanda remained seated, her expression hovering somewhere between defensive and bored. "So nice of you to finally grace us with your presence," she said. I set my bag down deliberately. "I'm not here for pleasantries, Amanda. I'm here because we need to address what you did to Lily." "Here we go again," she sighed dramatically. "It's been 3 weeks. She's fine now, isn't she? Why are you still making such a big deal out of this?" "She's not fine," I said evenly. "She's in therapy. She still won't leave the house without covering her head. She cries when she sees photos of herself from before." "So no, Amanda, she's not fine," my mother interjected, her hands fluttering anxiously. "We all agree what happened was unfortunate." "Unfortunate?" I interrupted, pulling out the photos of Lily's traumatized face from my bag. "This wasn't unfortunate, Mom. It was deliberate cruelty." I laid the photos on the coffee table. My father looked away uncomfortably while my mother's hand went to her mouth. Amanda barely glanced at them. "I prepared some information," I continued, pulling out more papers. "The pediatrician believes this incident meets the definition of child abuse. I've consulted with a lawyer who says we have grounds for a restraining order. And I've spoken with Lily's therapist about the lasting psychological impact of having her bodily autonomy violated by a trusted family member." "A restraining order?" Amanda scoffed, but I noticed a flicker of alarm in her eyes. "You're being ridiculous." "Am I?" I met her gaze steadily. "Tell me, Amanda. Why did you do it? What could possibly have motivated you to hold down an 8-year-old child and shave her head against her will?" "I told you, it was supposed to be a joke. And I didn't hold her down. She agreed to let me cut her hair. Maybe she got scared halfway through, but that's not my fault." "Amanda," my father spoke up, his voice carrying the authoritative tone he rarely used with her. "Just tell the truth. Please." Something in his tone seemed to reach her. Amanda's carefully maintained facade cracked slightly. "Fine. You want the truth? I'm sick of perfect Rachel with her perfect daughter. Always the good one, always the responsible one, always the one everyone admires. Why can't you be more like your sister, my whole life?" Her voice had risen to a near shout. "And that precious little princess with her beautiful hair that everyone fawns over." "So you admit it," I said, my voice ice cold. "You hurt my child to get back at me." Amanda's eyes widened as she realized what she'd revealed. My parents sat in stunned silence. "I didn't mean to hurt her," Amanda backpedaled. "I just wanted to. I don't know, take you down a peg. Show that your perfect little world could be messed up too." "By using my daughter?" I couldn't keep the disgust from my voice. What kind of adult deliberately traumatizes a child to get revenge on her mother? My mother finally found her voice. "Rachel, I know you're upset, but..." "Don't," I cut her off. "Don't make excuses for her. Not this time." I turned to face both my parents. "This pattern has gone on my entire life. Amanda does something hurtful, you minimize it, I'm expected to forgive and forget, and nothing ever changes. But this time, she didn't hurt me. She hurt my child." My father cleared his throat. "What do you want from this meeting, Rachel? What outcome are you looking for?" It was the first sensible question anyone had asked. I took a deep breath. 3 things. First, Amanda needs professional help, real therapy, not just a single family counseling session where she performs remorse and everyone pretends the problem is solved. Second, she needs to give Lily a genuine apology, not "sorry you were upset" but a real acknowledgement of the harm she caused. And third, Amanda will have no unsupervised contact with Lily until both Lily's therapist and I agree she's ready. Amanda let out a bitter laugh. "So I'm banned from seeing my niece?" "You lost that privilege when you assaulted her," I replied evenly. "This is ridiculous," Amanda stood up. "I'm not going to sit here and be dictated to about getting professional help like I'm crazy. It was a haircut, not a stabbing. To my surprise, it was my mother who spoke next. "Sit down, Amanda." Her voice was uncharacteristically firm. Amanda froze, and used to such directness from our conflict-avoidant mother. "Sit down," Mom repeated. "Rachel is right. This can't be brushed aside. What you did was cruel. And her voice faltered slightly, I think we've enabled this behavior for too long." The room fell silent. My father nodded slowly, the weight of decades of parenting mistakes visible in his expression. Amanda sank back into her seat, the defensive anger draining from her face, replaced by something I rarely saw there, genuine shame. "I didn't think," she began, then stopped. "I didn't think about how it would affect her. I just wanted to hurt me," I finished for her. "I know. But you need to understand that you can't use my child as a weapon against me. Ever." For the first time, Amanda seemed to truly hear me. Her eyes filled with tears, not the manipulative ones I'd seen so many times before, but tears of actual remorse. "I'm sorry," she whispered. I don't know why I did it. I don't know what's wrong with me." In that moment, I saw my sister clearly. Not as the villain I'd painted her to be over the last 3 weeks, nor as the misunderstood jokester my parents had always defended, but as a deeply flawed person who had never learned healthy ways to manage her emotions. "That's why you need help, Amanda," I said, more gently now. "Not because you're crazy, but because something inside you thought hurting a child was an acceptable way to express your feelings." The conversation that followed was the most honest our family had ever had. My parents acknowledged their role in enabling Amanda's behavior. Amanda, once her defenses had crumbled, revealed feelings of inadequacy and jealousy that had festered for years. And I admitted that my own tendency to withdraw rather than confront had contributed to the dysfunction. By the time I left 3 hours later, we had a plan. Amanda had agreed to start therapy the following week. My parents had committed to stopping their pattern of making excuses for harmful behavior. And I had promised that, once Lily felt safe and Amanda had done the necessary work, we would attempt to rebuild their relationship under careful supervision. It wasn't forgiveness, not yet. But it was a first step towards something healthier than the family dynamic that had allowed this situation to develop in the first place. As I drove away from my parents' house, I felt a curious mixture of exhaustion and hope. For the first time in my adult life, I had stood my ground with my family and demanded better, not just for myself, but for my daughter. And surprisingly, they had risen to meet me. 2 months after the incident, I stood in the doorway of Lily's bedroom, watching as she meticulously measured her hair growth with a ruler, carefully recording the results in a sparkly journal she'd titled My Hair Journey. "It's almost a whole inch, Mom," she announced proudly. "That means in just 10 more months, it'll be back to my shoulders." Her excitement was infectious, but even more heartening was the genuine smile that accompanied it, a smile I had feared might be permanently dimmed by what she'd endured. The path to this moment hadn't been straightforward. The first few weeks after the incident had been particularly difficult, with Lily refusing to look in mirrors and insisting on wearing hats even in the house. Nightmares disrupted her sleep, and her normally bubbly personality had retreated behind a wall of quiet wariness. Dr. Reynolds, the child psychologist we'd been seeing, had assured me that Lily's reactions were normal responses to the violation she'd experienced. "She's not just mourning her hair," she'd explained during one of our parent sessions. "She's processing a betrayal by someone she trusted and the loss of her sense of safety." Those early therapy sessions had been challenging. Lily had been reluctant to talk directly about the incident, instead expressing her feelings through drawing and play therapy. One particularly difficult session had ended with Lily sobbing that she just wanted to be normal again. The turning point came unexpectedly, about 3 weeks into the school term. A new student had joined Lily's class, a girl named Madison who had recently completed chemotherapy for leukemia and wore colorful headscarves over her regrowth. Rather than being intimidated by the parallels to her own situation, Lily had approached Madison with an offer to share her collection of hats and scarves. Madison says I'm lucky, Lily had told me on the drive home that day. Lucky how, sweetheart? Because my hair will definitely grow back. She says some kids who have what she had don't get all their hair back the same. And she said I was brave to come to school even though I was sad about my hair. That friendship had blossomed, providing Lily with both perspective and a companion who understood her situation. Together, they created a hair growth chart that they updated weekly, celebrating each other's progress. School itself had become easier too. After the initial curiosity and occasional unkind comment, Lily's classmates had largely adjusted to her new appearance. Ms. Patterson had incorporated several age-appropriate lessons about respecting differences and bodily autonomy into her curriculum, using Lily's experience as a teaching moment without singling her out. Perhaps the most significant development had been Lily's response to a playground bully 3 weeks earlier. An older boy had taunted her, calling her baldy during recess. Instead of crumbling or running away, Lily had stood her ground. "You don't get to be mean about something that happened to me without my permission," she'd informed him, loud enough for supervising teachers to hear. "That's called being a bully, and it's not okay." The incident had resulted in the boy's parents being called, but more importantly, it had shown Lily her own strength. She'd stood up for herself in a way that made me both proud and a little sad that she'd had to learn such resilience so young. Even more impressive had been Lily's school project the previous week. Given an assignment to create a presentation on something important to me, she had chosen to speak about consent and bodily autonomy. With only minimal help from me, she had created a simple poster explaining that everyone had the right to say who could touch their body, including their hair. "My aunt cut my hair without really asking me," she'd told her class matter-of-factly, according to Ms. Patterson. "It made me really sad and scared. But I learned that I can say no, even to grown-ups, if they want to do something to my body that I don't want." Dr. Reynolds had been impressed when I'd shared this story during our last session. "She's internalizing an important lesson about boundaries," she'd noted. "Many adults never learn that skill. Lily's developing remarkable resilience." My own therapy process had been equally challenging but necessary. The initial rage I'd felt toward Amanda had needed a safe outlet, and my tendency to blame myself for not protecting Lily had required careful examination. Dr. Martinez, my therapist, had helped me recognize patterns in my family relationships that had contributed to the situation, particularly my lifelong role as the family peacekeeper. "Setting boundaries isn't selfish," he'd reminded me repeatedly. "It's necessary, especially when you're responsible for protecting a child." The most difficult step in our healing journey had come 3 weeks earlier, when Amanda had asked to apologize to Lily in person. After consulting with Dr. Reynolds, who had suggested specific parameters for the meeting, I had cautiously agreed. We'd met in Dr. Reynolds' office, a neutral space where Lily felt safe. Amanda, who had been in therapy herself for 6 weeks by then, had arrived visibly nervous but prepared. Dr. Reynolds had facilitated, first asking Amanda to explain why she wanted to speak with Lily. "I did something very wrong to you," Amanda had begun, her voice steady despite her obvious discomfort. "I cut your hair without your permission, and I hurt you. It wasn't a joke. It was mean, and I knew it would upset you and your mom. I'm not asking you to forgive me right now, but I want you to know that I'm getting help so I never do anything like that again. And I'm very, very sorry." Lily had listened solemnly, her small face serious as she processed her aunt's words. After a long silence, she'd asked the question that had been troubling her for weeks. "Did you do it because you don't like me?" Amanda's composure had nearly broken then. "No, Lily. I did it because I was feeling bad about myself and jealous of your mom, and I wasn't thinking about how it would hurt you. It was about my problems, not about you." Lily had nodded, seeming to understand this distinction in a way that surprised all the adults present. "Dr. Reynolds says sometimes people do mean things because they're hurting inside. Are you still hurting inside?" The simple question had brought tears to Amanda's eyes. "Yes, sometimes. But I'm learning better ways to handle those feelings. Ways that don't hurt other people." That's good, Lily had said decisively. Because hurting people isn't okay, even if you're sad. In that moment, my 8-year-old daughter had displayed more emotional intelligence than many adults I knew, certainly more than I had given her credit for. She wasn't ready to fully trust Amanda again, but she was processing the situation with remarkable maturity. Now, watching Lily record her hair growth with such methodical care, I marveled at children's capacity for healing. Her hair had grown into a short, fuzzy covering that actually suited her delicate features quite well. She still wore hats occasionally, but more as fashion statements than shields. Mom? Lily looked up from her journal. Do you think when my hair gets long again, I might want to cut it short? Not all shaved, but like a pixie cut? Madison says I look pretty with short hair. The question caught me by surprise, a good surprise. If that's what you want, sweetheart. It's your hair. She smiled, satisfied with the answer. It is my hair. And nobody gets to cut it except me. Well, and the hair salon people, but only if I say it's okay. Exactly right, I agreed, my heart full. As I turned to leave her to her measurements, Lily called after me. Mom? I think I'm ready to see Aunt Amanda again. Not alone, but maybe we could all get ice cream or something? I paused, considering. Dr. Reynolds had suggested we follow Lily's lead on rebuilding the relationship with Amanda, as long as appropriate boundaries remained in place. Amanda had been consistently attending therapy and had respected our conditions without complaint, signs that she was taking her recovery seriously. I think we could arrange that, I said carefully. Would next weekend work? We could meet somewhere public, just for a short visit. Lily nodded, returning to her journal. The casual way she returned to her task after making such a significant request spoke volumes about her healing process. She was reclaiming her power, one small decision at a time. Later that evening, as I brushed my teeth before bed, I studied my reflection in the bathroom mirror. The woman looking back at me appeared somehow different from the one who had discovered her daughter's shaved head 6 months earlier. The changes weren't physical. It was something in the eyes, a newfound steadiness that came from standing my ground and protecting what mattered most. Like Lily's hair, some things couldn't be rushed. Healing took time. Trust required rebuilding. But watching my daughter's resilient spirit emerge stronger from adversity gave me hope that we were both growing in ways that would serve us well in the future. 6 months after finding Lily with her head shaved in my parents' bathroom, we pulled into their driveway for Thanksgiving dinner. Lily sat beside me in the passenger seat, absently running her fingers through her new pixie cut, a style she had specifically requested at her last salon appointment, declaring it totally me. The soft brown locks had grown out evenly, framing her face in a way that highlighted her expressive eyes. Remember, I said as we gathered our contributions for the meal, if you feel uncomfortable at any point, just use our code word and we'll leave, no questions asked. Lily nodded confidently. I know, Mom. But I think it'll be okay. Aunt Amanda has been nice at the ice cream visits. Her simple statement encompassed months of careful rebuilding. After Lily had indicated her readiness to see Amanda again, we had established a series of short, supervised visits, always in public places, always with clear boundaries. Amanda had respected these conditions without complaint, showing up consistently and engaging with Lily in appropriate ways that acknowledged her agency. My relationship with my parents had undergone similar reconstruction. After the confrontation at their house, they had made genuine efforts to understand their role in enabling harmful family dynamics. My father, usually stoic about emotional matters, had tearfully apologized for failing to protect both his daughters, me from Amanda's jealousy, and Amanda from her own worst impulses. My mother had joined a support group for parents of adult children with behavioral issues, gradually learning to distinguish between supporting Amanda and enabling destructive patterns. As we walked to the front door, I noted the absence of the knot in my stomach that had previously accompanied family gatherings. In its place was cautious optimism, tempered by the new boundaries I had established and maintained. My brother Thomas answered the door, his face breaking into a genuine smile at the sight of us. The guest of honor arrives, he announced, giving Lily a high five before helping with our bags. Inside, the house buzzed with the controlled chaos of a family holiday. My parents greeted us warmly, my mother admiring Lily's haircut with appropriate enthusiasm. "You look so grown up and stylish," she told her, careful not to make the focus on her hair too pointed. Amanda was in the kitchen, helping arrange appetizers. When she saw us, she smiled tentatively. "Happy Thanksgiving," she said, maintaining the respectful distance we had established. "Lily, I made those cheese puffs you liked at our last visit." "Thanks, Aunt Amanda," Lily replied, her tone friendly but not overly familiar. The natural caution in her response reflected how far we'd come. Lily was no longer afraid of Amanda, but neither did she blindly trust her. She had learned to establish her own boundaries, a skill that would serve her throughout life. Throughout dinner, I observed the subtle shifts in our family dynamic. My father, once content to retreat into silence during conflicts, now gently redirected conversations when they veered toward potentially divisive topics. My mother, previously desperate for surface harmony at any cost, had learned to sit with occasional awkward moments rather than rushing to smooth them over. Most notably, Amanda herself had changed. The jealous barbs and passive-aggressive comments that had once been her trademark were largely absent. When she did speak, her words seemed more carefully considered, as if filtered through the therapeutic techniques she'd been learning. She still occasionally slipped into old patterns. I noticed her tense when someone complimented me, but she caught herself more quickly now. After dinner, while the others gathered in the living room for games, Amanda approached me in the kitchen where I was loading the dishwasher. "Can we talk for a minute?" she asked, her voice uncharacteristically hesitant. I nodded, wiping my hands on a dish towel. "Sure." We stepped onto the back porch, the November air crisp around us. For a moment, Amanda seemed to struggle for words. "I've been wanting to say something to you," she finally began. "Not just I'm sorry, I've said that already. But I've been thinking a lot in therapy about why I did what I did to Lily." I stayed silent, giving her space to continue. "Dr. Winters, my therapist, helped me see that I've been competing with you our whole lives. Always trying to tear you down because I felt like I could never measure up." She took a deep breath. "But what I did to Lily wasn't just about hurting you. It was about power. I wanted to feel powerful when I felt small inside, and I used a child to do that." Her voice caught. "That's not the person I want to be." The admission struck me with its raw honesty. For perhaps the first time in our adult lives, Amanda wasn't deflecting or minimizing or turning herself into the victim. She was simply acknowledging a painful truth. "Thank you for saying that," I said quietly. "It means a lot to hear you take responsibility that way." "I'm not asking for things to go back to how they were," she continued. "I know that's not possible. But I hope that over time, I can earn back some trust. From both of you." As we stood there in the gathering dusk, I realized something important. I no longer needed Amanda to suffer for what she'd done. The anger that had consumed me for months had gradually transformed into something more like sad understanding. Amanda's actions had revealed her brokenness more than her malice. "We're building something new," I told her. "All of us. It's not about going backward. It's about creating healthier relationships moving forward." Amanda nodded, wiping away a tear. "I'd like that." When we rejoined the family, I found Lily engaged in an animated conversation with her cousins about a school project. Seeing me, she smiled, that full, uncomplicated smile that had been absent in the aftermath of the incident. The sight of it warmed me more than any holiday gathering could. Later that evening, as we prepared to leave, my father pulled me aside. "I'm proud of you, Rachel," he said, his voice gruff with emotion. "You stood your ground when it mattered. You taught all of us something important about protecting the people we love." His words stayed with me during the drive home, Lily drowsy in the passenger seat beside me. For so many years, I had equated family loyalty with tolerance of harmful behavior. I had confused peacekeeping with love. But true family loyalty meant something different. It meant holding each other accountable and demanding better from one another. As we pulled into our driveway, Lily stirred. "That wasn't so bad," she murmured sleepily. "Maybe next time we can stay longer?" "Maybe we can," I agreed, reaching over to brush a strand of hair from her forehead. Inside our apartment, as I helped Lily get ready for bed, she paused in front of the bathroom mirror, studying her reflection. "You know what, Mom? I think I like my hair better now than before. It feels more like me." The simple statement held profound meaning. Through this ordeal, Lily had discovered something about herself. Her identity wasn't tied to her appearance. Her strength came from within. As I tucked her in, she asked the question I'd been waiting for. "Is everything fixed now with our family?" I considered how to answer truthfully while remaining age-appropriate. "Not fixed completely," I said carefully. "But better. Everyone's working on making better choices and being kinder to each other. Including me." Lily nodded, satisfied with this explanation. "That's good. Because family is important, but being safe is important too." "That's exactly right," I agreed, marveling at her wisdom. After she fell asleep, I sat at our kitchen table, reflecting on the journey of the past 6 months. The incident that had seemed catastrophic had ultimately catalyzed necessary changes in our family system. Boundaries that should have been established long ago were finally in place. Patterns of enabling and avoidance had been named and addressed. None of this justified what had happened to Lily. I would never be glad that she had experienced such a violation. But I could acknowledge that from that painful moment, important healing had begun, not just for Lily, but for our entire family. As I prepared for bed myself, I noticed Lily's hair journey journal on the counter, open to her latest entry. Below the measurement and date, she had written in her careful third-grade handwriting, "I am not my hair. I am brave and strong and kind, no matter what I look like." I closed the journal gently, my heart full. Perhaps that was the most important lesson of all, that our worth isn't determined by our appearance or even by how others treat us, but by the inner qualities we nurture and the boundaries we learn to set. The path forward wouldn't always be smooth. Old patterns had a way of reasserting themselves, and true change required consistent effort. But we had made a beginning, establishing new foundations for healthier relationships. For now, that was enough. For those of you watching who've dealt with toxic family dynamics or had to establish boundaries with loved ones, I'd love to hear your experiences in the comments. How have you protected your children while navigating difficult family relationships? What helped you find the courage to stand up for yourself and your little ones? Don't forget to like this video if it resonated with you, subscribe for more stories about family challenges and healing, and share with anyone who might need encouragement to establish healthy boundaries. Remember that protecting those we love sometimes means making difficult choices, but you're never alone in that journey. Thank you for listening to our story, and I wish you strength and healing in your own relationships.